Psalm 127:3. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from Him. This suggests children are a precious gift from God to be valued and cared for.
In the United States, a child a minute is taken into DHS, CPS, and so on custody. The reality is their pics are already selected, you just don't know it. Being perfect no longer matters. It's what the adopting families are looking for.
Who is it stealing the children, you ask?
From caseworker to the White House, the buck stops at all levels, just not where it is supposed to be. The services your family needs, we the people have paid for to ensure your reunification. Title 4 says, reunify at all costs. United, we stand means nothing to us when it comes to family values. Children are being ripped away from their families. Parents are reverting to addictive behaviors to cover the pain. The trauma caused by child removal is just being recognized, and the results are atrocious. Termination of parental rights is not healthy for anyone, just profitable for the people enforcing the lie.
It's time Washington listens to the cries of our children, the wails of their mothers, and the rage growing in the fathers. These are our children. Keep your damn hands off them. We are coming to act on the behalf of the children God gave us to protect, and you kidnapped.
Childhood, growing and developing years of a person. This is meant to be a highly important time to create morals, fundamentals, and skills necessary to be a success. Instead, the trauma CPS creates in these young minds set a path of disaster, and statistics prove it. In nearly 90% of their cases, the trauma is unnecessary. Time is the one thing that can never be given back. CPS takes away moments in life that can't be replaced. The time just keeps going, doesn't mean a thing anymore. They left as children, and it's up to them when they come home if they know who you are. Each second away is time you will never get back and keep getting older.
Studies are leading towards incarceration.
Now comes the honorable judge in the halls of justice, where the Constitution will hold strong, and your rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness will trample CPS for all they have done to your child.
The truth and corruption that's revealed to you is enough to make you sick. This is not America we were sold.
Children are being taken from families at the rate of one a minute. It needs to be stopped.
It's time to wake up and abolish CPS.
In the United States, CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
We need to stop CPS and abolish CPS.com is leading the way. Join us.
All right, here we are, CPS Victims Hunting Justice. This is Thursday night. I don't know if everybody just caught that show with Tiffany. That was a great show with Tiff and the Punisher. It was more like Tiff and the, but thank you to Miss V for showing up for that. That was great. I hope we get to do that again with you, and maybe next time I'll be able to chat with you a little bit more. And I will be working on that void ab initio, so that you can see that it truly does not have to be adjudicated. All right, we have a special guest tonight, Mr. Gunner here, the gentleman that we show Exposed CPS Tennessee. He's out doing the same thing we're doing. He's fighting the good fight, and you know, he's I don't know if he's new to the fight, but he's definitely making waves in the short time that he's been you know, making his name known. So he's definitely one on the chopping block for that. And let's bring him out. We got Herbert's here too. Herbert's back here. Herbert, how we doing, buddy? This is
Good.
Gunner. How we doing, bud?
Hey guys.
Gunner,
How you
what do
doing,
you think
sir?
about this?
Doing good. Okay.
What's well, first of all, why don't you let us know a little bit about you, my man? What brought you out into this fire?
Well, we had a personal experience with a local CPS. Basically just framed the hell out of us for everything. We had a mental health situation with the child that was in question, completely disregarded for any mental health issues whatsoever. Very well known for some of the mental health issues. CPS got involved. And basically just started stomping on. There was no cooperation. Nothing was voluntary. You were forced, threat, coerced, threatening of taking of children. You're talking forgery. You're talking perjury. You're talking falsifying evidence. You're talking about constitutional rights violations. I mean, basically, you know, we've been in contact with a constitutional attorney as well. One of the top 5 in the nation, actually working on reviewing some of our case and going, we didn't realize it could get this bad. I mean, it was utter what we want. You know, we're just going to come take, and there's nothing you can do about it. We're here to destroy somebody. Matter of fact, when it came on that there was a general announcement that the CPS caseworker was trying to coerce me into you know, signing the voluntary agreement. I disagreed, asked for an attorney. And then as he hung up on me, he called me a privileged white ass.
Oh, nice.
So nice racism there. Yeah.
Right. Might as well just throw that in on top of everything else that they had going on, huh?
Yeah. And then you go before, you know, you don't get any trial by jury. They basically do what they want. They did not look at any evidence. I mean, it went as far as a police investigation that was just a matter of asking questions. And then when it came down to medical results and stuff like that, it was bullshit. But they still pushed it. Like, it's like there's no supporting evidence. You have a coached, basically interview or interrogation of a child where the child was left alone for over 2 hours by herself while they intimidated the mother to leave to go get her other children, and forced her to leave the child there for over 2 hours, and then destroyed all the video surveillance in the common areas, just gone every 15 days at a child advocacy center. Now, right there, that's illegal under federal law, because you're supposed to retain any interactions between parents and or children, by federal statute, you're supposed to retain that evidence until the youngest child that's involved in it to the age of 19. They delete it every 15 days. So you can tell you how many kids they're cycling through with doing this.
Holy smokes. Do you believe that the numbers that they are giving us are false?
Oh, I believe every bit of. I mean, even national, percentages is 7%. National percentages is 7% of all cases that they ever deal with are ever substantiated. I believe even those numbers are fabricated. I believe it's nowhere near what it is. The biggest thing is this is about money, and the states found a way to make money, even through the court systems illegally.
Absolutely.
Just basically, they're not even supposed to be working independently like they're doing now, doing response calls to this and that. They're supposed to be
away from DHHS everywhere.
Yeah, they're not supposed to do anything without direction from a judge, basically, or called in by law enforcement as a support force. They have basically made them militarized and police CPS that you got caseworkers and people working on stuff that has no oath to a constitution, not done any kind of swearing into the Constitution to uphold the Constitution, anything. And the stuff that they train them that we uncovered is absolutely disgusting. They actually train these people. There's a national training platform. Firefighters go through it. Police officers, all these different people go through these seminars or training seminars they have. And they actually have one and one of the things we uncovered under some of this research is they actually train people how to violate and coerce their way into a home. There's actually a class on it. So that's
they do that for police too, do they not? Isn't that something that they do? The police
they do with the police as well. They do this big cooperative thing. Hey, this is how you do it. The problem is federal case law specifically says, and this was a case law that's never been overturned. It involves CPS and a police officer. And basically CPS was doing an investigation and then used the police to push into the house. Well, the federal judge ruled on this of saying, you can only, on CPS or any government official, can only come into your home with a warrant or a court order with firsthand knowledge, and it has to be from a Title I or a Title III court by law, because it deals with the Fourth Amendment, is the only way that they can get in there that way, or they have to document the fact that there's a immediate or imminent danger or an emergency. Firsthand experience that they have witnessed there's an emergency. The judge went on to say anything else is coercion and illegal. Now that there alone, they're not training officers that. They're not training. See, it's, hey, we want to get in. Hey, we got to do this. Hey, putting your foot in the doorway past the threshold, violation of your Fourth Amendment rights.
Right.
You've entered without that. What's your probable cause? They're coming in just kidnapping, doing what they want, and people are not doing it. Well, see, here's the problem. And I've even talked to a constitutional professor and several others. This is why your Second Amendment exists, people. Once they cross that threshold and their immunity is gone, it don't matter who they work for. They are now a common criminal coming to steal your children. You have a constitutional right to defend your home. And when you go, yes, they'll try and arrest you and prosecute you. But once you come in, of going, where's the warrant to say that you were even allowed in there? Because now you're in a criminal court. The rules are completely different. Where's your warrant?
Yeah.
Don't have one. That's why you send the meat wagon instead of the ambulance. That's it, as easy as what it is. And when people realize you have the right to do this, yeah, you're going to get a little slack on it. But I guarantee you, they start taking care of things according to their constitutional rights, they're going to straighten up real fast.
Yes, sir.
So,
absolutely.
As we started digging, we checked out our state. We said, listen, what they're doing, we know is unconstitutional. They're violating rights. So we had to look, and I began to look into it. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the term autodidact.
Autodidact, I'm not.
Okay. Autodidact is the ability, and they don't want you to teach this, they don't teach in the public schools. Autodidact is the ability to self-learn and self-teach yourself. In other words, I don't need instruction or I need very little supervision, but I can learn at the same thing anybody else can learn. I don't have to go to a school, a classroom, a college. I can pick up the same books you have and retain all that information and process it and apply it without having a problem. In other words, if not even better than those that are in college and have degrees. So there's a lot of people that are autodidacts. Nikola Tesla was one. Albert Einstein was one. A lot of our great minds were like that because we didn't have formalized schools putting your brain in a box to be able to learn. Be able to learn, like if you're curious about something, you go learn about it. That's autodidact. I'm interested in it. I want to learn how it works, how it functions, how this does. They don't want to teach that. Why? Because you're going to learn through these situations about your rights instead of going, wait a minute, I just got bulldozed over in court and I knew something wasn't right and it wasn't legal, but to articulate it on a scale, because you got to understand, most people think I want to define something, I go to Webster's dictionary. No, in a courtroom, they define it by their own, even their own dictionary, Black's Law Dictionary. So you're looking at a whole different set of terms. What means one thing in our common language means something completely different in the courtroom. So that's why they have their own language in the courtroom. So if you don't
legalese, right?
It's like a foreign language to anybody.
Right. And then you get comments like these that says, my lawyer says this is not true. And this is, I'm pretty sure that this is in a reference to me and my void ab initio, which is, I am right about the void ab initio not having to be adjudicated. But nonetheless, but you get comments like these, my lawyer says that is not true. Your buddy is an idiot. But that's because, you go to see your attorneys and they'll be like, well, you're misinterpreting what the definition of these rules are, or you're misinterpreting this. No, I'm not misinterpreting anything. I can see clearly that it says that this is what the law is.
Let me explain something.
Mm-hmm.
In federal court, you're going to deal with the law, yes. In state courts, all the way up to the Supreme Court, they don't deal with laws. They deal with statutes and codes. And if you challenge a judge, will you follow the law? No, they're going to follow. We're going to rule on statutes and codes. The problem is they don't even follow the point of those codes, and a lot of those things are not meant for the people. Why? Federal case law. All rules, regulations, and codes are for government only. They're not for the people. Why? Because it lacks due process and is unconstitutional. But people don't push that. They go, oh, there's just that same. No, you've got people sleight of hand that have been doing stuff. I mean, how do you think some of these different cases, like, SEC versus Jarsky came through just recently. A lot of these other case laws that just they overturned that big case that everybody was flipping out, Chevron difference, and how much that changed. The government handed it over during those times to corporations. The corporations were in control. That's what it's about. It's not been about we the people, because if it was about us the people, you wouldn't have lobbying, because you'd have to represent your constituents and not your special interest groups or businesses in the area. I mean, there's your biggest problem right there. We made a mistake. We allowed it under our original constitution, but we never foresaw that. But we have a chance to change that. But here's the thing. So as we began to dig, we found out that not just the state I'm in, Tennessee, but all 50 states, I go through their policy, procedures, handbooks, and everything to do with CPS, and every single one of them have printed that they have a right to violate your constitutional rights. Now, folks, that's treason. But here's the sedition part. They are using your, state tax dollars and federal funds to train state employees and subcontractors to violate your constitution.
See that? They're getting you. They don't want you to say this.
Well, I have congestive heart failure. See, CPS got me so bad.
Oh, wow.
I had to have a pacemaker defibrillator in because it caused it so bad.
Oh, my God.
The amount of stress and everything that we had to go through and the torture they put on me and my family, that we're just now getting ready to file our federal civil suit. And it's huge. But the things that we uncovered is just crazy.
It is.
Oh.
It's
The
it
court.
really makes me.
Yeah. Are you wanting the course there? I'm trying to find your private chat here. What are you looking for to put in there? It says, can you put? I got a private chat here from
I
somebody.
don't. Yeah, I think that was from our little sideline buddy.
Okay.
Um,
So here's the thing. We found out that every state is committing and training their people to enter your home and question your children and or you on private property. Here's
Right.
the problem. Federal law says every single time you enter the home, you must have a court order or a warrant with justifiable cause, and you have to be specific on the time periods and what it covers. Otherwise, it's not a legal warrant.
Right. They can't just come in and randomly walk through your home and say blah blah blah, and we're just looking through this. They need to come in for a specific purpose, not just let me just come through here. Right.
Not just the people that are getting their kids taken. Even foster parents, part of the protocols that they go through is a home visit. Where's your court order? Where's your warrant to even come in my home? You're telling me I can't receive children or family, grandchildren, or whatever else unless you break into my home? That's a constitutional rights violation, and you printed it. You printed it.
Right.
In the state of Tennessee.
It's under their manifest.
Oh, here's the thing. It all has their state seal on it, people. We just released the evidence. If you go to my page on Gunner 1911, it's the pinned video. You can go in there. What we're going for is you have a link to go to a Google Drive that shows you the evidence highlighted, where the constitutional crimes are found in their handbooks. Even some of them say you have the right to, question your child and you don't need a parent's permission. I'm sorry, federal case law says no. But they still
What's that website of yours? What's your website, bud?
It's just I'm up on TikTok at Gunner 1911 is where we took and released the information. Okay. And if you go on there, there's two links, one for evidence and one for another podcast I did with Malibu Dallas. And if you look at part 2, what we did with all this evidence was we turned it over to the FBI, to the DOJ, and they validated it. Says, yes, this is constitutional issues. This is enough for treason and sedition and fraud.
So, may I ask you a question, sir?
Sure.
So, does mandatory reporters have the right to ask your child questions without your permission, but let you know that they spoke to your child later? As example, a school teacher that sees little Johnny's not feeling well or acting funny, can she ask little Johnny, what's the matter? And little Johnny says, oh, my mommy and daddy were fighting and they were upset and blah, blah, blah. Can she go on asking that child questions?
Okay, let me ask you this. Is that child a minor?
The child is a minor. The child's in elementary school.
Child's a minor. The child's not aware of that, which is why you're not considered an adult till 18, which requires the protection of your parents, because that child does not know how to exercise its Fifth Amendment right to shut up or decide what it wants to say or doesn't. That's manipulation.
Right. So, although the teacher finds marks on the child and wants to know what happened and asking the child questions, and they have reasonable cause to believe that this child may have been bruised by their parents, and they're mandatory reporters, they're wrong for reporting to CPS. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Why? Because here's the thing. If it's true that child is being beaten and there's a crime, CPS is not authorized to arrest or prosecute anybody. That's law enforcement, people.
Right.
You do realize that every state has stepped over your constitutionally elected sheriff's position and authority?
So then can the school teacher then call the local police department about what appears to be abuse to the child?
If they feel there's a crime that has been committed or about to be committed, absolutely. Yes, they can.
Now, when the police officer interviews that child, the parent don't even know it, and determines that there may have been abuse, can they call CPS?
Well, once again, CPS is a secondary system. It was the way it was designed. It's why Social Security Title IV funding was even brought in the Social Security Act of 1935, which gives it, the power that it does to drain your Social Security funds. CPS is draining millions and millions, if not billions of dollars. I haven't seen the recent figures every year out of Social Security. You wonder why people that are on retirement can't get a decent living or a livable wage? CPS is draining it dry. They're robbing you blind, and everybody's paying for it.
So the police officer determines there's damage to the child. Can the police officer contact CPS?
Well, one, this is part of his investigation. The proper investigation is something has happened to the child. We think, and he can go, do you think this has happened? They can't even talk to that child under the Constitution because you have inalienable parent rights. Now, you can go and question the parents. The police officer said, listen, your teacher noticed there was some marks on little Bobby. We need to know what's going on with little Bobby. Well, the parents then have a chance to explain. The officer then has to use its discretion on whether or not a crime has been committed. See, the problem
but the police officer, because it's a child in elementary school, feels that there's been something going on with this child. As I see bruises, contact CPS to follow up with the parents.
Oh, well, see, once again, that's not CPS's job. That's a criminal investigation. If there's concerns, the idea is CPS was supposed to be designed as, here's our card. If you would like some assistance or help, please give us a call. That's the way they're supposed to operate. Do you need some help with housing? Do you need help with this and this and that? They twisted it all up because it all came down to money. Do you know how much you get for involving a child in a court case, and let alone trying to get them up for adoption? And every state is different. You've got some state that checks for a child's eligibility to be adopted out every 3 months that you're in your case. And the average case is 6 to 9 months. That means your child goes up for review at least 2 to 3 times to be on the adoption, whether it's they qualify or not. But as soon as they qualify, they're going to yank that kid. Why? Do you know how much money they get for an adopted kid?
Mm-hmm.
So what are they doing? So what's being done to tell police departments to stop contacting CPS?
Well, listen, CPS is a thing that, hey, we don't deal with. The problem is the states have come in and instructed these men and women of blue, and they have deceived them and saying, listen, we want, if it's a child case, you're not qualified, we'll not do this, we're going to go here. Why? Because it's more profitable to run it through CPS than to train special officers that deal with children. Big cities like Chicago and New York, they have a special unit for stuff like that. It's called the Special Victims Unit in New York. So your SVU team, if for sexual assault or abuse or anything like that, they specialize in investigations and such like for that. These people are not even trained. Most of your CPS workers don't even have children. They're in their late 20s, early 30s, and they're coming in here, and some of them got blue and purple and green hair and dressed like slovenly, for what they have. And you're coming in trying to tell somebody that's dealing with 2, 3, 4 kids, and some of them are neurodivergent or special needs kids, and you're going to try and tell them how they should operate? I'm sorry, kiss my ass. You ain't got.
Well, I just happen to know in New York, the Special Victims Unit will contact CPS to follow up.
Yes, which is supposed to be a support. Now, see how that worked? They're supposed to be a support agency. We find something, there's no crime, but we think you could benefit from some of these things. So you go there to offer the services, which is voluntary, as it's supposed to be, but it's not. You're forced. And in a lot of states, here's the kicker. And there's 2 disgusting ways that they try to trap parents and how they traffic children. Because we found the research, we've got it, and we've confirmed it with people. 1, the state has got a policy for child abandonment is considered a Class C felony. So as soon as you sign that paper to turn over your kids voluntarily, guess what? You just caught a criminal case. Now CPS goes back, once they talk to the DA, buddy with the DA, now you have a criminal case and a CPS and a family case. Well, guess what? You ain't getting your kids back now because you signed them away. Because what they're going to end up doing is going back to the family court judge and going, Oh, by the way, Your Honor, they're under investigation or being indicted for child abandonment, which CPS encouraged and caused. Now that's one to the older kids. We found out how they're getting the babies. Now this one, guys, it's going to turn your stomach. It's going to kill you. It's going to make you so disgusted. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
They are getting people these new babies after they're born. They're doing a drug test on the mom and the baby.
Yep.
In a hospital. Okay.
Without consent.
No consent. Doing the test on them. Okay. And then saying they pop positive for amphetamines or this drug or that drug or whatever it may be.
Yep.
Well, the mother turns around. I've never done any of that stuff. I haven't done any of this, and that. Until one nurse spoke up and said, wait a minute. She had an epidural. And they're like, yeah, so do you know the combination of drugs that are in that epidural? We gave her that medicine. We made her test positive. We made the baby test positive. And she was told to shut up as another nurse turned around. And this ain't the only case. This is just one. Another nurse said, that's all right. That baby will be better off than being with that family. They'll put it in the adoption system, and they'll put them off. They'll never see that child again.
Yep.
So why don't the people sue this? I'm speaking on behalf of Young. Why doesn't the people sue the hospital?
Because they didn't know what was going on. Everybody was hush hush quiet. You got to remember, this is lower middle income people that they look at them and they judge. They're on state aid. They're on state care. Oh, they can't afford that child. Look at me. I'm in nursing school, or a doctor that's doing it, that's doing these reportings. That's all it takes to take these kids is one falsified report or one epidural. And now women, I'm surprised women's rights ain't all over this stuff.
Yeah, facts.
Facts,
100% right there.
Your mother's rights right there. Are you telling me that if you take an epidural, they're going to steal your child? Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Because it's happened, and we have more than one nurse that has reported this to us. And so what we did, we gathered all this information, and what we found is that all the states printed the fact they had a right to come into your home, question you and or your family on private property, and not have a jury trial. Okay? What we found out, they printed this. Okay? The first part of entry into your home, talking to your child, all these other, the things that the four main ones that we dealt with is this. We found the evidence of that, and we found the supporting case law that's never been overturned. One of them was that case with the police officer and the CPS worker. And, it goes on to even say that, asking people questions on private property, it was ruled in that same case, is an act of seizure under the Fourth Amendment and hence illegal and unconstitutional. You cannot question somebody on their own private property. That's a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. That's why they're supposed to take you what? Downtown. That's the whole point of it. That goes for your kids too. They're supposed to be in a place that's, controlled, public property. Now, if your kids are in public,
that's if they're doing if they're doing an interrogation, you're correct about taking you downtown. But if a CPS personnel comes to your door with a court order to do a wellness check, and they have a police officer with them as a security guard, so to speak, then they can come in and do a wellness check. Am I correct?
No. Because police officers don't get involved in civil matters. They're not supposed to. It's illegal.
The police officer is not involved in a civil matter except to be there to avoid any confrontation between the CPS personnel and the parent.
Okay. Well,
then why? If that's the case, why are they the ones knocking on the doors?
Yeah, give me a justifiable reason you're knocking on my door, because
checking their cars, making sure everything's all right.
Yeah, if you
Herbert used to be a Herbert's a retired New York City cop.
I mean,
so we have him on the show. He does all like the legal aspect stuff, like the police stuff, and we got questions for him.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets tied up with this stuff about the police and everything. He didn't even know about CPS till he knew about CPS. He didn't realize the corruption and everything that goes with it. You know, he did 20, 30 years of being a cop and didn't realize when they contacted
They're just
CPS.
following the instructions they're given from higher up. They figured that somebody's done their research. It's legal, it's constitutional, and they're allowed to do it under their codes or policies and procedures. And the people that are writing this are no, every state's the same. They have robbed the police from the ability to conduct an actual criminal investigation, which CPS has no authority whatsoever to investigate. And you're talking about having a court order to come on your house on a wellness check. Well, guess what? Does that person have firsthand experience? If so, you need to hand me a copy of that court order with who testified or gave the judge that they had firsthand knowledge of what was happening enough to do a wellness check. You can't. I'm sorry. Unless they call in and say, hey, I think he's dying or on the floor or overdosed on meds or this or that. Yes, that's justifiable. But I think a child's been hit or this, and that. All they can do is knock on the door of a police officer and say, hey, we got a report that somebody said that maybe they took it. Well, good. They better put their name on it. They come into my house. Because here's the thing. Once they put their name on it, this is the bullshit thing about mandatory or anonymous tips. One, the Supreme Court's already ruled on it that an anonymous tip is not enough to get a warrant or a court order to enter anybody's house. Bet you they don't tell you that.
Right.
There's one. Second part is if you got a court order to come in here, then you show me that person's name, because as soon as you come in and it's bullshit, I'm suing the hell out of that person for filing a false police report or a false report. Now you're held accountable. But they don't want the accountability. You see how that all goes away? Because it's all about making the money. The more you come in, the more kids they deal with, the more cases they have open. Well, we'll leave it open one more week. We'll leave it open one more month. Every month it turns that calendar. It's another payday. It's fraud.
Right. And then when they get to the points that they're by the guidelines of what Title IV says and the CAPSA and all that stuff, when those tights run out, then it's time to TPR you, and you're out. And they get the money from the foster. Like, why all of a sudden are we having to make sure every person that the kids go to are a registered foster home? They're not just your aunts and uncles. They are a registered foster facility now.
That's the big money. But now that's the long game. The short game.
In the state of Maine, for anybody to take the child in, they have to register their homes as a foster home. It takes this thing, and this even goes for your family. If you thought you were doing kinship or something like that, every person has to have a registered foster license in their house. So they're just pounding back the money here.
Well, that's foster. That's where the big money comes in, the government money, the Fed money comes in. Now, the way that they tie it up in the local systems or your local family county, your county family court system, how they make their money is they come in and they go, well, we recommend that you do some counseling, or we recommend the child does some counseling, or you need to go through this program, or you need to go through this therapy program, or you need to do this. And we have a program for it. You know why? Those same 501c are all supported by Fed money. So it keeps the state getting that Fed money over and over and over again, including your CAC centers. They make a killing. So everybody's helping everybody. So CPS drags you into a court, gets that far, then the judge works with them with no jury or nothing. They're autonomous. There's nobody to hold them accountable for anything. They get away with what they want, which is bullshit. Well, guess what? SEC versus Jarsky turned around and said, which just got ruled back in June of this year, specifically says, if you can take and find someone, if you can punish them by removing a license or anything like that, or hold them in contempt of court, you must have a trial by jury. It's over. But until people are educated and turn around and ask the judge of going, can you do this? Can you do this, Your Honor? Yes. And that includes your child support. That's right, your child support. If you can be held in contempt or any of those things, and you ask the court that, address the first thing out. Can I be this? Can I be that? Well, yeah. Well, I want a trial by jury. Jury denied. Well, Your Honor, I moved to have this case dismissed immediately because the court has just violated my Seventh Amendment rights under SEC versus Jarsky, because it specifically says that if you have the ability to do those things, I must have a trial by jury. If not, it's a Seventh Amendment violation. Case law is pretty clear, and you have to follow it because you don't get that discretionary anymore. Chevron indifference gone. You're not a professional anymore. You have to follow the courts. And if you don't, I'm going to file with my state judicial review board, and then I'm going to do a civil rights attorney, and I'm going to sue the hell out of you, and you're done, judge. But regardless of what you have, the point of what we're doing is the FBI and DOJ says, listen, we've validated the fact that these are constitutional crimes. We don't have victims. Okay. So we have a template that's in that download that is kind of like your template for the FBI agent. You fill out your information the best you can, but you got to keep it between the lanes of those particular amendment violations. I know we get a lot of people that are turning around. Well, this happened to me. And no, you just need to file this complaint for criminal. This is for criminal action that they have done this and this is committed fraud. That's the point of it. It's to get them to turn around and say, we're shutting you down because you're committing fraud by breaking the law. And you've proved the fact that the state is then, if you get enough people, that the state is training their people to actually commit these constitutional rights violations against people. When you get them to turn around and say, well, I was trained that way, that's all you need. And I guarantee you they'll break as soon as the feds gets a hold of them. But the thing is we need victims. So that format is on the download. You follow that, go to the Truth Hurts podcast. It's here on YouTube too. It's part 2. At the very end of that, there's the email address for the FBI agent that is in charge of this case. They need victims in all 50 states. So if you put in, this is who I am, this is approximate thing of the dates it happened, here's my case number, these are the people involved, CPS worker came into my house, questioned my children, no warrant, no court order, just real simple. And then when I had to go to court, I did not have a trial by jury. Okay, then you're going to quote these the cases are uploaded as well. The case law is up on that same link. So you're going to quote those case laws that are in there, look it over, and just start filling out those case laws. You're going to take that, email that in to the FBI agent along with, and it has your state and everything on there, name, all that information, and it goes directly to the FBI. Then they'll start compiling a list of, now we have a complaint for this state, it's so many for this state. The more people we get to do this, now listen guys, this can go back over a decade. I'm not talking recently, I'm talking a decade. When you look at some of these policies and procedures that we found, some of them are dated, Tennessee is dated 2016. 2016. That means every case that they have technically, if it goes down to it, every case that they have adjudicated by printing treason and committing sedition by executing it, and everybody can now file, this is your gateway to file a federal civil suit quoting this stuff and saying this happened to me, and look, it's printed that they did it, and they train their people to commit the constitutional rights violation. It would bankrupt the courts. You're talking about shutting down CPS across the nation because you're going to sue the shit out of them. That's what we're setting you up for, is filing the criminal aspect because of fraud. But not only that, we sent this over to Army CID. This is an act of treason and sedition against our elected and appointed officials that have betrayed us because the states have printed it, put their seals on it, or on their government websites. That's your government. That's your elected appointed officials. Now, I won't say government. Why? Because we are the government. We need to realize our power.
Now, a person is asking you a question, and the person's name is M. Young, and I think what this person is saying basically is there a statute of limitation on this information you're given?
No, there is zero. Look at this. There is no statute of limitation on deprivation of rights under the cover of law or violating your constitutional rights. That can go back.
So this could go back to 2020, 2012, for example.
2000, 1986, 1983. So long as you say, I didn't let them in, and here's where you find the facts that we told them. Every state has got to have a facts report. In Tennessee, it's called a Tennessee facts report. Your caseworker has to document everything. So when they came in and they questioned you without a warrant, they have to put in, went to the judge, had enough for a judge to do a warrant or a court order, to enter the home and question people. Okay, well, one, it's in the home. That's illegal as can be. You can't do that. And that's what they're saying that they have a right to do. But as far as, there's a time period, no. Did I get a trial?
Okay, so Tammy says she's been a victim for 30 years. She can go back 30 years on this?
She can go back as far as she wants to go to turn around, as long as her constitutional rights were violated 30 years ago, and she never took into anything. There is no statute of limitations on constitutional rights violations. She can file a civil suit tomorrow.
Okay. Now, with all this information you're providing us, can you give us an idea of how many people you actually helped and got them to get their children back, reunified?
Listen, this is a long game. And the way this goes through, if we all band together, it can stop in a month. So long as there's enough people and you start filing your civil suits against these people, they're done. See, the biggest thing that they have against you is fear. They have divided mothers and fathers, put them against each other. They're in fear. The stuff, the games and the mental games that they play. Understanding psychology is a soft science. It kind of fits here, but not so much. But every person is unique and different. There's no one way of saying, well, little Johnny does this, he's going to be a serial killer. They can't say that. There's no way they can do that. Why? Because there's people they have tested like that and turned around and found they're multi-billionaires. Why? Because they use their focus towards something positive instead of something negative. So you can't, it's like the movie Minority Report. Hey, we got a report that you're capable of doing this, therefore we're going to arrest you now, even though you haven't even committed a crime. That's what they're doing. And they're saying, they're going before judges and stuff. Look, it's showing the signs of this and that, but you got to understand when you go through the training. See, my wife has a degree in psychology and early childhood development. She's been through their classes. So when they tried to pull half the crap they did on her, she's like, I've seen this, I've done this. My child, matter of fact, I'm very active with my child on, communication, as far as body language, as far as body identification, going with the National Pediatric Society of using proper words and medical terminology for their autonomy. Calling a penis instead of little Mr. Bob or anything like that. Why? Because it's known to stop people that are actually abusing children when you're using proper medical terms. It freaks them out. That's been proven. But once again,
how many success stories have you had with this information you're sharing with people?
This is just brand new. We just released this not even a week ago. So
the theories and all you're sharing with us is new, so you don't have any success stories yet.
We're actually getting some stories with the information we found to put in there, as well as those case laws, to educate people from those case laws of saying, Your Honor, you can't do this. Your Honor, the biggest one that recently has come up is SEC versus Jarsky. Throw it out right there. Your judge has just committed the court has just committed a constitutional crime by having no jury. And all you have to do is put it in there and quote the case law. There's the problem. Don't expect these people to know this stuff. And these courts, you have to prove it.
So what you're sharing with us right now hasn't been actually put out there where parents have actually used those theories you're saying to get the child back yet. It hasn't happened yet.
We have probably had about 10 to 20. I've worked with Dallas a lot on some things. He was probably one of the first ones that I come in contact with, that we worked closely together with, sharing information and knowledge and everything back and forth, basically just to catch myself up to speed and catch up to where he was, and then go dig even deeper on some other things that he didn't have time to, because he got caught up a lot with helping people so much. He didn't have the time to do the research and the study, or only go so far. He was doing what he could, and I just dug a little bit deeper, more into the law. We confirmed things with constitutional attorneys and professors, and that's basically where we went with it. But there was I think we've had, I don't know, since even before it was released, probably about, I think, 40-50 people have been benefited from these case laws just alone. Because entry into the home, that's illegal. You can't do that. Or judge issues this, well, then you need to have something specific. We just found another case law that we just updated. trying to think of what it was, but it's up there. It's a little bit different. It's labeled. But basically, it's turning around and saying that CPS can't withhold your children from you unless they prove or have hard evidence that you're a bad parent. There's a new case.
Okay, so with all that you're sharing with us, do you think between 6 months and a year, you'll have some success stories to share of people that were able to get their children back using all that you're saying?
Let's put it this way. Here's how this works. It's a domino effect. This is the other thing they won't tell you. You remove one judge for constitutional rights violations, all the cases they ever adjudicated now have to be reversed by just filing paperwork. Find one person to take out one judge, and every case they've ever handled will have to be reversed, but you'll have to know about it. They hide it when the judge stepped down. The judge didn't. The judge was crooked as hell and got caught. And they're not going to show that. Why? That's your local government's covering it up. Why? Because that means money. And the other thing that they like to play when you do catch them, oh, this is the beautiful one. Well, we're going to pay you a big fat lawsuit, but you're going to sign what's called a non-disclosure agreement. Means you can't tell anybody else about what happened in your case or what you figured out. Why? Because you got us pretty good. But now you can't talk about it. Wow. Now it's why? Because it's cheaper to pay them off a fat, $10 million settlement when they're going to make 20 times that the next quarter. It's a joke. It's all about the money. It's not about the kids. It's not about be saved.
Okay.
It's about money.
Okay. So do you believe that the listeners who are listening now, because there are quite a few, if they follow your lead and follow the things that you're telling them to do, it will help them to get their children back within, say, 6 months to a year?
Depending on how fast things move, yeah. Because here's the thing. If you file the fact of one with the FBI, that when you start off what we've given you just in your case for FBI, if you just use that alone just to get your foot in the door for your federal court hearing for a civil action, that's enough. You have to go through the rest of it and deal with usually a federal attorney is a little bit different than some of the, your basic family attorneys or anything else, or a constitutional attorney usually works the best. And you get them to come in and say, listen, this is what I've got so far. This I know is for sure happened. And you provide them with the case law. You're going to look educated before that federal attorney and go, well, good. I'm not dealing with somebody that doesn't know or comprehend what's going on. It makes it easier. Then you can communicate what were your other constitutional rights violations that you can prove. You got to prove it. Then we can add those. Now, we can bring up whatever we want during the course of the case. Why? Because you have something called punitive damages. Those are pain and suffering or, recovering, of this and that, the miscellaneous file. A lot of judges won't even take and put a number on it. You got to understand, for every time they violate a constitutional right, there's a cap of how much they have to, or how much they get to award you. That's the way it works. Now, punitive damage, there's no ceiling unless the judge sets a ceiling on punitive. So you could end up with constitutional rights violations of, say, $1.25 million, okay? Well, now your punitive damages, well, we decide your case is so bad, we're going to give you another $175 million on top of it. And that's a trial by jury. Now, they have one chance to appeal it, but understand it's not the appeal that like you go through in family court. It's just an appeal to see whether or not the law was followed. And if it was followed, you're screwed. As far as the state is concerned, you're going to pay. Here's the problem. You've got to get their money. You've got to work together. Even if a couple of you are close together, pay one attorney to go through and work on both your cases and make it a small class action. It's real simple. More than so many people, it's a class action suit. It's how you get everybody involved, but you got to have the attorney to do it. And this is the way to do it. We all qualified that there was illegal entry and questioning. Here's the case law. No trial by jury. Here's the case law. This is where we start. Now they can go individually down each of your cases of what happened to you. And I know there's a lot of pain and suffering people will go through. Well, this happened. Oh my God. And I felt like this. And the kids were like, That's pain. That's stuff for the stand. Save it. You're gonna have to get your emotions out of it. That's what got you in trouble in the first place. You were scared. And here's the other thing: you weren't stupid. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I was stupid." No, you were uneducated. You didn't have the knowledge because they hid the knowledge from you. Here's the sad part. Why did the Board of Public Education teach you on what your rights were or what happened? Why are people so lost when it comes to the court system? And they're forking out tons of money for these family court systems and these family court lawyers. Right now, the most demand for job and the highest paid market right now is family law. Because of the corruption in CPS, it's generating money for everybody. All the top tier people, all those high education, all those legal experts, this and that. For what? To steal children? Why? To generate revenue. The lawyers get paid, the courts get paid, CPS gets paid, and they get federal money on top of it. And you're sitting over there, yeah, but my rights. They'll tell you right away. We don't deal with
do you feel that people should plead their rights on their own, or should they have an attorney present with them?
It depends on the individual, is what I'm going to say. If you really know your case law and you understand it, and they're not going to, like I said, you got to really dig in deep with this stuff, and they don't give you time to dig in deep because they blitz attack you. They come in, they enter your home, do a report, then they go back to a judge, and then they do this particular thing, then they put you through this, then they put you through that, and it's so fast. And they're constantly using psychological manipulation to manipulate, especially the women. My wife went through it. She goes, "Oh my gosh, the manipulation tactics were disgusting." And that's somebody with a psychology degree. Lying, gaslighting, all this other stuff. It'll be okay. Hey, I'm your friend. No, they ain't. I want an attorney here before I even do anything. I'm not taking my kids to a forensic interview. That's voluntary. I don't have to do anything, but they're going to tell you have to. That's when you tell them get a fucking court order. And then when they do that, that's called retaliation.
Well, in a case like that, wouldn't the individual say, "I'm not going to do anything without guidance from my attorney"?
You can claim that right as well. Here's the other thing. They've changed that. That wording does not exist even in Miranda's attorney. You have a right to counsel. Now, whether that counsel is your minister or somebody that's an advocate or anything like that, that's where they've changed the wording, and they have completely taken and twisted what people's purview of the law is that I have a right to counsel, not anything else. I mean, so it basically summarizes it up as that they are twisting. You gotta understand, they're lying to your face. And here's the other thing. Even every state has got other laws or codes on the book, if it doesn't take you hard to look at, that are unconstitutional that they're enforcing, and they're making money off of it. They're putting people in jail over it. It's unconstitutional. But if you don't know how to argue it, or your attorney doesn't know how to argue it, why? Because he's a state criminal attorney. So we're going by the state statutes and codes, not the law, unless he dabbles in it a little bit. We want somebody that's going to be in the federal courtroom. Why? Because they have the ability to go back and forth between the state courtroom and the federal courtroom. You're getting people that have the lowest amount of degrees and getting on the Bar Association just to be qualified for state courts, not federal courts. Because federal courts don't.
So how do you take your case to a federal court versus a state court?
Well, there's a lot that you have to overcome. One, it's either if it's a crime or something, you got to have evidence of something as far as going criminal. But the evidence, like I said, of entering your home and no trial by jury, and you show up with the case law, that's enough for a federal attorney to open up a federal civil suit for you. Now, after your civil case is won, now that judge is going to turn around and vacate all the orders and everything else and get your kids home and get you a fat stack of cash. But the idea is they want you to spend as much money as you can in state courts, so you don't have money to pay a good federal attorney to go in. and fight for your constitutional rights and your federal and the laws, and we'll apply the law. Why? Because as soon as the state's attorney shows up and stands up, well, Your Honor, in our state, this is, our code of this, and that, and the federal judge is going, I don't give a shit what your state statutes and codes say. We're here for constitutional law. We don't care what your state. That doesn't mean anything in this courtroom. So you flip the script on them, because now all the powers that they had by hiding behind their statutes and codes are now stripped away completely. We're dealing with constitutional issues. That's why you keep it in your lane. You can still tell your story and go through some of the other crimes or things you didn't feel right or this, that, but understand, when you say what you say, you better be able to back it up or form it in a thing. In my opinion, using words like that, so they don't come back and sue you. Hey, you said this on the stand and that isn't true. Now you're held liable. It goes both ways.
So it behooves you to have proper counsel that will, especially a lot of people have never had any issues with law enforcement or crime or anything to do with courts, and then suddenly they find themselves wrapped up with CPS. So it behooves them to have proper counsel with them. Am I correct?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't. Proper counsel. I don't think it's so much proper counsel. I think you need proper education. One, you're on private property. Fuck off.
Education.
You got a warrant? Yeah.
If you don't have proper, if you don't yourself as a parent have proper education, then you're not going to know which way to go with anything.
Once again, this is where your public school system has failed to educate the average citizen. But once again, Rockefeller said, I don't want to take them to go public schools, that he sponsored, and said, hey, I don't want a good citizen. I want a good worker. Why do I want somebody that knows their rights? I don't.
Okay. But I want to deal right now with the parents we have now that are having issues with CPS. I agree with you with the public system. They're not being educated. I agree with you. But I'm just saying, dealing with people who are not educated, they have a child, something happens, and they have CPS knocking at their door.
Real simple. Let's educate everybody real good. And this is the thing where we failed to. They've divided us all, so we don't take and communicate with each other.
That's right.
Turn around and tell them, say, guess what? No warrant, no entry. Got a court order? Well, then you do a little bit of research, educate yourself on what is a valid warrant or a valid court order. It's not hard to find. Listen, guys, the internet's out there. You can get a free college education right here on the internet and learn the same things that they have out there. This is the birth of what we have now. It's no longer trapped in the classroom or in books. You can now go on the internet and find out all that you want. But once again, unless you know it's coming down there, nobody ever plans on CPS to show up. Most people take it, they get a knock on the door, and it's somebody that's jealous or a neighbor because you got into an argument over your lawn was too high or this wasn't here. I wouldn't tell you. The crazy stories I've heard of psycho neighbors doing stuff and turn around and turning them into CPS. Your kids are too loud. Your music's too loud. You stay up too late. Your car's parked in the driveway. I'm calling CPS on you. And the system is set up for these little snitches to turn around and do that with no form of accountability for what they've done. That's bullshit. And that's your lawmaker.
Okay, now you are aware that within the last 6 months to a year, that the nosy neighbor or the individual that calls on a parent and it's not proven could be charged with a misdemeanor.
In some cases or some states, yes. Not all states are like that. They have to take and keep that hidden. That's not exposed to anybody. That's why if it went through law enforcement like it's supposed to, now you're looking at failure to reporting a false crime. This is why they took it away from the police, because there's no consequences and you up your number of calls. Do you know how many calls that went up when they switched it over and turned it over from police departments back to CPS? Now, Texas has recently changed that to where now all the calls go through the police department. So every state is different. But like I said, once they get that call, now you're going to be held accountable in Texas. It's not like that in every state. Most of it's anonymous. They're going to let them get away with it.
Chris says not in Illinois. It doesn't happen that way in Illinois. So you're right. Every state is different.
Yes. And that is the proof. If you want to take the time to go through the countless hours I've gone through on all their policies, procedures, handbooks, and everything else, which is made public, I'll take and I'll have to put that up here. But it's on my page as far as the drive on TikTok. Share the hell out of that. The idea of this is to get the word out there.
You're damn right it is. Yes,
get you
sir.
in civil court. Okay, get you in a federal civil court. Even if your CPS case is going on and you had constitutional rights violations, go find you a federal attorney ASAP and file them, because you can have a federal case going on that will outrule, has more authority than your state case, no matter what that judge or anything else says. Well, Your Honor, you can adjudicate all you want, but you're involved in a civil case now, and we're building this case as you go along. How many more rights you want to rack up? Because now they know you're serious. If you filed that, they know they're put on notice, and they're going to back off. Because the less damage they do, that's the less collateral damage they do. Because you got to understand, if CPS has done all this, that means your judge has adjudicated over a case of fraud. That means that judge has to be removed under the law, even state law.
Yep.
The more judges you take out, it's not the CPS workers. Y'all are working the wrong angle. Take the judges out. Take the magistrates out. There's nobody to adjudicate. And then who's going to want to take that position? Look what happened to the last ones. And who caused it? CPS. Shit rolls downhill, people. You'll catch CPS up real quick, but start taking these judges out. Right now, if everybody was to file what we had, that it actually happened to in the past just decade, past 3 years, and reported it to the FBI and started their federal civil case, that every judge in every state, in every family courtroom would be gone. Because there's one person that would be able to remove that judge for having a trial without jury, let alone getting the CPS on the front end. Hey, entry without a warrant and questioning on private property. Those are criminal acts, and the states look right over it.
Okay. Now, am I correct to say you have a child or children that was taken, or no?
My oldest was taken from me, but he's turning 18 in November. But yes, my wife and I had to separate, so she had to take her children with her. But we did not get divorced, nor are we. We're still fighting this, because we were from the very beginning that the child that was involved was neurodivergent, had a well-documented history, was actively involved in mental health treatments for this specific thing. And basically what it came down to was they didn't care, because they didn't even look at the mental health. They didn't pull it. They didn't see the guardian ad litem, didn't pull nothing. Matter of fact, the guardian ad litem she had for her kids, the funny part was, never met her or the children before they even showed up first day of court. But that's supposed to be something that's supposed to be looking after the children's best interest that you've never met? Oh, yeah. And then in my first one, the magistrate, CPS attorney, the guardian ad litems were all in the hallway having a good old conversation outside the courtroom and not in the judge's chambers. That's corrupt as shit. And nobody gives a shit. And you lost before you. Don't waste your money in the lower courts. That's all I'm going to tell you. Make these attorneys go broke. As soon as
so what you're saying basically is try to get it to the federal level and not to the local levels.
Yes, because the state is. Well, you think the state's going to take and do anything?
Right.
I made the same complaints on a judicial review board, and they turned around and said, we have found nothing wrong. I take it to a constitutional attorney, goes, yep, all your constitutional rights were violated. It's just a matter of how many counts there are. It's that bad. But yet their own review board says they've done nothing wrong. Nobody's done nothing wrong.
Okay, guys, we're at our time there, Herbert. We could continue this for another day, but we got to wrap this up. We're at our hour and 10.
Guys, go look at that evidence. Follow up that video.
We'll share the hell out of this stuff for you, Gunner.
Let's get that stuff. Guys, get this information out here. Why? Because here's the other thing. This is treason and sedition by every state. Yes, it sure is. Yep. You know what that means? All of your elected and appointed officials must be removed. This is an act of they have overthrown the controls and powers to commit crimes. It's enough to shut them all down and send them all home. But here's the thing. It's over 4 years, which means the executive branch of government is in there
Trying to-
because nobody could legally cast an electoral vote, not
Right.
legally, by committing crimes. And then the only thing that would be left would be the judicial branch that is supposed to be working with the military to reestablish a good, solid government. That's the way it should be right now if people would make the noise. Because here's the thing, this is enough to rebel. And it's hard evidence.
This is it. You're damn right. All right, guys. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Gunnar, very much for coming with us. We'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same place. Gunnar will be in touch for sure. I'm the CPS Punisher, and we are gonna be out of here right now.
You gonna do an after show?
Young, inexperienced caseworkers and polluted with bribes, high-priced bonuses for speedy adoption of terminated parents, and judges who don't practice law with the Constitution in their sights. This is a problem.
They take away the fathers, leaving just a mom and cubs. They know that with that out the way, the better things will go. Breaking apart the family, destroying the American way. Our legacy is built upon our families of yesterday. Fuck CPS, fuck what they doing. Fuck CPS, they need to be ruined. It's all about the division of family services. You hear that the division, that's what they about. They prey upon the family, the ones that the dad's been kicked out. We can't stand for this abomination. This is the song that needs to play across our once great nation, making us aware of the problem. Stealing our kids, it's not mama drama. Stand up for those who are lost to them. We need to fight for the family, making America great again. CPS comes along with the mission to protect. The only thing they are doing is cashing in those checks, paid for by the souls of the children, diagnosed by a caseworker who is still a baby herself. They take away the fathers, leaving just the mom and cubs. They know that with dad out the way, the better things will go. Breaking apart the family, destroying the American way. Our legacy is built upon our families of yesterday. Fuck CPS, fuck what they doing. Fuck CPS, they need to be ruined. It's all about the division of family services. You hear that the division, that's what they about. They prey upon the family, the ones that the dad's been kicked out. We can't stand for this abomination. This is the song that needs to play across our once great nation, making us aware of the problem. Stealing our kids, it's not mama drama. Stand up for those who are lost to them. We need